Have any of you ever watched a documentary of one of the great social movements, like apartheid or our civil rights movement or Stonewall, and asked yourself, would you have been brave enough to walk the bridge? Would you have been able to take the hoses and the batons and the dogs? We don't have to wonder anymore because we are in our documentary moment. This is it. And it's not a rehearsal. This is it. And we mustn't for a moment kid ourselves about what's happening.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Practical Psychic Podcast. My name is Lauren, and today we are going to be jumping into some political topics. So if that is not your jam, feel free to skip this episode. This episode is also going to be a video episode, not on YouTube, but if you are watching on Spotify, you can join along and watch me. I'm here in my little she shed recording. It's just me today. But yeah, I am kind of doing a follow-up video to my first kind of like political video. If you haven't watched that one first, listen to that one first, which I also uploaded here onto the Practical Psychic Podcast. I would highly recommend starting there. A lot of that is because I just gave a lot of the disclaimer there, a lot of like the reasoning of why I'm doing this, why I'm jumping into this, and like just a lot of the background and the reasoning why you should kind of like start there. So I've been wanting to get back to this. I've been wanting to record this literally. I wanted to jump onto this since like the week after I recorded that last one. But if you have kids and it's summertime, you probably know that it's almost impossible to get anything done during the summer when they are home. So thank you guys for bearing with me. I also had to do like a lot of like research, astrological research. I had to like bring all my thoughts together from multiple readings and just get it all onto one piece of paper and like in one place so that like today was just organized, well thought out, and it wasn't just rambly and all of that nonsense. So that being said, today I'm going to be going into a lot of the predictions that I kind of highlighted in that first video. That first video, I didn't go deep into it because I didn't want to make a really long video, and I didn't want to throw people into the deep end if they were like not into it. The whole point was like, I'm gonna throw out some feelers. If you jive with it, if you resonate with it, come on over to the podcast, come on over to the next thing, and then you can go from there. So that's kind of like my way of being like, let's weed out the people who are not interested. If they were not cool with it, cool, they left their nasty comments, bye, they're not gonna see me again. I didn't lay it out all on the table. That was kind of like my way of a little bit energetically protecting myself and not going like all in from the get-go, because this has been a little bit scary for me to just kind of dive into. And I just like want to say too, like, thank you to everyone that got onto that video and had like such positive, kind things to say. I have never had a video have that like warm of a reception before. Like I put that video up and like I had a feeling like I was gonna get some people that are like, yay, like good job, like support, just because of the way that I felt like I was in alignment with my integrity. And so like I felt that if I was in that energy, I would kind of get that back. But I was genuinely surprised at just the comments, the views. That video just kind of like exploded. So many people have found me through that video, through YouTube. I keep saying video because I also uploaded it on YouTube. I haven't looked at how it's doing on the actual podcast. I don't check my podcast analytics as much as I should, but, anyways, I just want to thank you all because it's just, it was a scary thing to do. And I'm not saying that as like, oh, come and give me more. And, it's not all about me. I feel like the message is important and it's not about me. Because like, again, in that first episode, I really talked about how I do feel like when you receive messages from spirit, a lot of it is you have to honor those messages and give that message if you feel called to. You don't always have to accept that call, but it's something that I decided to do. But it's not about me. It's not like, I always say in my readings that, when people thank me, I try to remember not to be like, oh, thank you. It's all about me. Because it's not, I'm the vessel in which that information flows through. And so like, yeah, I pat myself on the back a little bit for keeping my skills honed and being that vessel. But it's not me that's doing it. It's not me that's just like coming up with this random information. It's not like me and my psychological information background and all my skills as like a therapist, it's spirit giving that information. And so point being here, what was my point? I don't know what my point was. Essentially just that, it's not about getting that like pat on the back from everybody. It's just a reminder that, it's about delivering the message, and when we can remove our ego from that, it kind of makes it a lot easier to give that message in a way. So besides going over that original video a little bit more in detail, I'm also going over some of the secret podcasts that I had mentioned, because I don't think everyone's going to watch them. So I'm going to incorporate them into this video so you don't have to go backwards and try to find those and listen to them. They're kind of long. I'm going to just make it so that video was the original starting point, and from here on you can just move forward. You don't have to go dig and find any secret podcasts unless you're just like super interested. I already do have a video planned or a podcast episode planned after this that's going to dive into topics around Trump, and I realized I could not fit the stuff that I wanted to say about him and just the general stuff that I wanted to talk about in this video together. It's just too much. Because after I kind of talk about all of that summary, I want to talk about just like where I see the future of the US going, my personal predictions, again, remembering that I can be wrong, what I feel like the messages are saying that we need to be doing as the people living in the US, and what those timelines look like, and also just like how all of this came about. Like I alluded to that a little bit in that video, but I didn't really go very much in detail of this. Again, if you saw those secret podcasts, this might be a little bit of a reiteration for you, but I didn't want to make people go back and find those because they're a little long. So yeah, that's what we got in store. Again, if this is not your cup of tea, feel free to move on. What I said in the original video, the original podcast episode, was that I'm going to just be doing these political podcasts here and there. They are not going to be taking over the whole entire podcast. As you've seen, Karen popped in. We've got more podcasts planned with her. I've got other episodes planned. I'm just doing them as I feel called. So if you decide you don't like them, you do not have to listen to them. And again, like I know this is not the majority of you. I'm really just speaking to the jerks that leave the nasty messages. And like, that's been the hardest part about this. I know it's coming. Like I know it was going to come, and it did come. And like, that's the hardest part. Even though I got like a million awesome, beautiful messages from everybody, it's the 2 or 3 nasty ass ones that just like, ugh. It's like, you guys get up here and try to make your own podcast about this, okay? Secret, private, like user who hides behind a handle that doesn't have any videos or podcasts, coming over here and critiquing everything. I give you guys permission to go bully anybody that bullies me. I'm not all love and light as a psychic sometimes. Okay. Anyways, I want to like name this series of these. Somehow I haven't figured that out, but hopefully by the time I put this up, there's going to be some sort of indication of like, this is like a political one, so that every time you see it, hopefully you know, okay, just from looking at the title, this is a political one, so you know whether to skip it or not. And again, disclaimer, I know some of you are just going to listen to this without watching the original. know that I can be wrong. I can be wrong. I admit to being wrong. Has been so many times that I have been wrong, and I fully claim that. There's a lot of psychics out there who will, totally be wrong and then fight the fact they are wrong. I am not one of those people. I will fully come clean and be like, totally wrong. I get it off sometimes, and I totally do. So when I say any of these predictions, I just know that I am not one of those psychics out there that is just like, this is how it is, and if it does not happen this way, then F you, and I'm gonna gaslight you. Like, that's not me. I believe that the future can change. I feel like I'm reading things now, so it could change, variables could happen. Also, I could just be connecting wrong. I could be connecting out of anxiety, out of fear, out of just not being in a good headspace, out of not being well practiced. Like, there's so many things that could happen that are not making me a clear channel, and I own up to that. So it is just as much your job, in a way, listening to me, watching me, to remember that I am human, that I am fallible, that I am not perfect, and to listen with your own discernment and know that I can be wrong. So, like, even as you listen to me, like, use, like, this could be an intuitive exercise, pay attention to, like, where your gut feels off. And if I say something like about the future and you just are like, that could be like your intuition, or it could be your logical mind. And that could be just letting you know, maybe that's not right. That's not on, and that's how I listen to other people, other psychics making their predictions. Like, sometimes I'll be in agreement with them, and then other times I'll hear my guides in my head being like, nah, they got that wrong, and so that's just how it works sometimes. And so it might be helpful to listen with that lens. That's how you learn your own psychic ability. That's how you learn to kind of understand your own discernment. And don't freaking trust everything a psychic says. I'm just, please know that I'm not personally attacking anybody out there. This is just like venting because I see so many poor people out there that like get onto TikTok, get onto Instagram, and they just like go in fully trusting of psychics, and they just like are like believing everything, and then they just get burned so bad, and then they are just so hurt and then so angry at psychics when they didn't quite understand like how it works and how it doesn't. So I feel like I have to give disclaimers like up the butt all the time, because I know for some of you who are with me for every episode, you're just like, oh my God, shut up, move on. But like, I gotta do it. If I don't do it every time, who knows what new person is watching me that really needs to hear that. So forgive me. Hecate is here. She's behind me, by the way. I don't know if you guys can see in my video. I got a little statue of her, and I'm going to make a little segue into that in a second. But just to also preface here, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in this episode is very astrology driven. Not all of it. A lot of it is my intuition, but a lot of it is astrology. And I want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, let you guys know where I'm at with astrology. I have been studying astrology since 2021, so it's really only been about 4 or 5 years that I've been studying it. I feel like I understand it really well for that amount of time because I hyper focused, I'm super deep into it. I just like read and consume all the content around it. So I feel like I'm pretty intermediate right now, moving into more advanced. Maybe not super advanced, I don't know, somewhere in there. But just know that that's where my skill level is. So a lot of the things I am going to be talking about today are astrological, but I want you to know my skill level in the sense of like, if I give it another 5-10 years, I might be like, oh geez, I'm so much better than I am like now. And so also point being like, a lot of the astrology that I'm referencing are other people's predictions. They are not like my personal predictions. However, they are people that I trust, that I watch. Like, I'm very discerning about who are good astrologers. Like, I pay attention to what's going on, and I pay attention to their predictions. And if the stuff that they say doesn't come true, I don't like listen to them, and if the stuff that comes true does happen, I continue to listen to them, and I'm very like discerning, and I watch them for like many months before like I would ever like share the things that they're getting, and I always try to like credit them so that you can always go and watch yourself. So I just like want to make sure you guys know this is not like me looking at the charts. Like some of it is me, because I understand the basics, but like the big stuff, like I will make sure to let you know. Like I do not know how to read Iran's chart, and we'll get there. Iran, sorry. And when we get into like some of the bigger mundane astrology and some of the bigger stuff, like there are people who've been researching this for literally decades, and I do not at all want to like claim that that is like my research at all, because that is not me, and I want to give credit where credit is due. But I'm trying to illustrate like there's like positives and negatives here of like that's their research. So one, it's not me, but two, that could be bad and good. It could be good in the sense that they're better at astrology than me, but it could be bad in that maybe I'm unaware of something astrologically, and I'm not as learned as I should be. So again, just giving that disclaimer up front. And the last thing too, please be aware of the things that I'm going to be talking about. I mentioned this in the last one. Your mental health, if you are not in the good space to receive this, like we're going to be talking about some like dark stuff today. All of these podcasts are going to be a lot darker. Like we're going to be talking about some heavier themes. All of these are going to be that way. Like I'll probably stop saying that after this episode. I'm comfortable going there because I've been getting this energy and feeling into this energy. I feel like my guides know that I'm capable of handling it, but I have to like give you a fair warning of like those are the messages that are coming through. It's not that the messages themselves are that way, but it's like it's a lot to take in and handle. If you are in a space of like fear, fight or flight, and just not in a place where you can like take on that energy, if you are more needing to protect yourself, protect your family, and just protect your mental health. Awesome. So let's move on. The first thing I want to talk about is just how all of this sort of came about. I don't want to spend like too long here, but I mentioned it in the video in that like a lot of this, I forgot to go grab my astrology book. I'm going to go grab that in a second. But a lot of this like aligned with the astrological transits that were going on in a very, very creepy, weird way. In the sense of like, let me just go run and grab these. Hang on. I'm going to pause the recording. So I will put up a graph here. And this is from Madeline DeCombs from honeycomb.co. And she makes these graphs for the astrology podcast, but she also puts them up on her website. Anyone can download these and look at these. This started in 2024, went into 2025. You don't have to worry too much about understanding this. Just know that this graph is the intensity of Mars over these last few months. And really it was kind of from essentially like October 2024 to May 2025. And the red is when it was in one sign. It was when it was in Leo, and then the blue was when it was in Cancer. Now for me, when it moved into Leo is in my 12th house. 12th house is 12th house is like spirit. It's in the mind. Whereas 6th house is like the day to day. It's like how you're going about your day, daily work, daily routine. 12th house is like who you are in isolation. It's who you are when you're alone. And so like the 12th house governs it can govern like mental health, it can govern anxiety, it can govern depression. It's like, how do you deal with your mind in isolation? And that can look good and positive, and it can also look bad. And And so it's also called like the house of like bad spirits, like when your spirit is bad, is what like the ancients like believed about this house. It's like when you're in bad spirits. And so the 12th house is also again associated with like drinking, drugs, because you know, if you are in bad spirits and you are not doing good and you're depressed and anxious and all of that, you probably would self-sabotage. It's like that house. And so during this time, I got really familiar with what the idea of the 12th house was. I was always thinking, oh, 12th house is the house of enemies. And I was like looking out for enemies. And I was like, I don't see any enemies here. And I was so confused. And then I listened to one of Chris Brennan's podcasts and I was like, oh, the 12th house is this. And I was like extremely depressed. And I was like, this all makes sense because on this graph, if you look at the dates where Mars ingresses or it goes retrograde or it egresses into a sign, and I'm going to make a whole podcast on this as well, because I think it's so freaking cool and important learning about planet ingresses and egresses and retrogrades in your life. And I'm going to like walk you through the very basics of these. All you need to know is like just basically on these lines, like the very clear, distinct lines that are vertical through all of these, that's kind of one of those dates. So on the first date, literally here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but just know that the first time it moved into my house of Leo, Mars moved into my Leo house. And Mars, again, it's aggression, it's action, it's uncomfortable, it's it cuts, it severs, it's fiery energy. And it literally moved into that sign for me, and for everybody, and specifically my 12th house, and for every Virgo rising. If you're a Virgo rising, you would have had it in the same spot as me on the day of the election. And that is where I can confidently say, and I'm sure so many of you can say, like, I completely changed into a different person. I was so angry and so livid. Maybe I made a podcast shortly after that. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But I have never been that angry before in my life for that long. Like, I've been angry before, but it's gone out before. I've been okay and it's been over with like after maybe a day or two. But I was so angry for so long, and I was just like ready to set shit on fire. I was like, my husband kept calling me a little anarchist. And I was just like, I was seeing red. During this time, essentially, I felt Hecate come in for me. And I just felt like so many people during this time, and she's giving me chills right now. So many people during this time also felt her come in. I just, on the online communities that I was in, they also felt her. And she kept showing up for so many people. And she just came in instantly for me. And she just like helped me channel that energy, and she helped me. Okay, I get it. You're here. Sorry. She's just like pushing me and tickling me and all of these things. Right now, what was I saying? She pointed me where to look. And I know that sounds kind of like, oh my gosh, silly, but I swear to you, she kept the fire going in a way. She didn't let me lean into the depression at first. She pushed me to keep looking and like looking at the injustice, looking at what was going on. And this is again something that I'm going to get more into in the, oh my gosh, I get it. You're here. Please. Sorry. She's like pushing on my ear and it's like ringing. What do you want? Hang on. Let me see. Does she have something she wants to say? She's clearly trying to get my attention. Okay, she's just wanting to tell everybody, like, if you felt like you also felt her around that time, she's like giving you permission to, like, you're welcome to go connect with her. Like, you don't have to like wait for her to come see you again. Like, you can go connect with her. I feel like if you're looking for validation, she's like wanting to give you validation through me through this like podcast. Are you happy? Okay, I think she's happy. Anyways, but yeah, I was going to talk about it more in the other podcast. She was the one who pushed me to kind of like look into the whole election stuff and not totally give up on it, and follow my intuition in the breadcrumb trails that I was kind of seeing. And again, I'm going to get into all of that. I know I ended that last podcast with that. And if some of you are just totally unaware of that, I'm sorry to leave you on that cliffhanger and make you wait till the next one. Hopefully I'll get to it soon. But I'm going to go into that in detail. There's just no way I could have done it in both this one, or done it all in this one as well. So, but she helped me like dig into that and push me to find more things in that area. And a lot came from this sense of like justice and like, we're not going to accept this. And like feeling like she was helping a lot of like women. And I don't mean that in any sort of judgmental, like, men can't find their intuition, but it just felt very like she was coming through for a lot of like people who were receptive and open and willing to like look at things and just like start that fire under our butts. I don't know, essentially. Because how do I put this? Like I just want to put this part in here because I did want to talk about Hecate here. Because I wasn't like coming out of that election like looking for a reason to be like, fuck Trump, like I'm gonna, well I will, yes I like F him, but in the sense of like I wasn't coming out of it like I'm gonna deny it automatically if he wins. Like I was in that space for a solid probably 24 hours of acceptance. Like I was like, okay, this is like what it is, apparently people voted for this. And then I started like questioning and like thinking things through and diving into it intuitively. But it was her. She kept dropping in all of the memories of him saying things before, like saying he said things of like, you're not going to need to vote again, and Elon knows all the computers, and there's I have all the quotes written down for the other one, so I'll be able to quote them better, but he said a lot of like things ahead of time that were very much like, we're gonna rig this. And in the moments when those happened, I had those like, you know, those out of body experiences where you just kind of like stop and you hear your intuition and you're like, stop, pay attention, categorize that, like listen, because something is different here, like put that in your brain, remember it, even though you don't know why. And so it was like she was pulling me back and she was like, remember this, remember that, remember this. And then it was like she'd be like, look here, look here, look here. And then I was piecing it all together, and then it was like I was finding other people who felt the same, and then it was like all coming together. And so she I feel like I should thank her. Like, she didn't allow me to fall into sadness and despair for a long time. It was that fire of Mars, I feel like. And I don't feel like it's actually Mars. I feel like the planets are a reflection of what's going on. I feel like it's a mirror. So I feel like it's that I was on fire, I was mad, I was pissed, and I held on to that fire for a really long time. And I didn't give in to the hopelessness and the despair for a long time, actually. And I use that to kind of have that hope and propel me forward and have this, like, it's going to get better. Like, we're going to figure this out. And I felt like in that sense, like, I've always been like a couple months ahead of everybody else. And I don't say that in the sense of like, I'm better or more like elite or more knowledgeable than everybody else. But like, I one of the things I've been noticing about picking up these predictions is that a lot of times I will pick up the messages about 2 weeks to a month, a couple months before they actually happen. And then it's like I have to wait and then they'll happen. I'll kind of explain that as that comes up. But so essentially when Mars ingressed into Leo, the sign of Leo, on election day, of course, it was just like proper timing. I'm pissed. I'm mad. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was depression mixed in there, absolutely, but it was mostly fire. And let's see. And then the day that it moved into Cancer, which is when it kind of hits this blue section, essentially, like, there's a lot of like other important things that happen here, but I don't want to like go into all of this. But on all of these dates that there was like a major change with Mars, like something pretty significant happened with like my mental health and with this whole discovery of just the politics, paying attention to politics. It's not just the election stuff, it was just politics in general and how it was affecting me, and feeling like I wanted to speak up about it because the 12th house is also, it's like my spiritual core. It's like the 12th house is where we go deep within and process like things spiritually. But I have Leo in the 12th house. And so Leo wants to share it. It wants to express it. It wants to like, it wants to dive into it. It wants to, you know, process it, deal with it, and then it wants to share it. And so I think I was very much in a hermit mode for a lot of that period. But then right towards the end of this transit, that's when I started to see things, and I was really starting to have the confidence that, like, you know what, I think I'm actually right about all of the political stuff that I was guessing towards the beginning. And I was like, I'm gonna just like record, you know, a podcast, a secret podcast about this, because I want to have it on record just in case I'm right, but I'm too afraid to put it up, you know, because I don't want to like put it up and have people judge me. And so I recorded a secret podcast. You can find it through my predictions blog. So all you got to do is go onto my blog post on my website and just kind of scroll through, find my predictions. And like I have everything categorized by like date. But if you kind of scroll down, the very first, I call it the super secret podcast. It's not very secret because I just link to it. But if you click on that, I talk about just the fact that I believe that the election was interfered with and that it was like rigged. And what was crazy is literally the next day, what happened? When was this? The next day was when all of the it had already been happening, but it wasn't that it didn't hit the public really, and people didn't really start finding out about it, was that some of the lawsuits and some of the discovery for some of the election interference. I hope like I don't know if I'm going to get flagged on Spotify for saying these things. I know on TikTok, if I talk about any of this on TikTok, it gets pulled down. It is nuts. Every time I make a TikTok video, I get violated. It gets taken down. I've gotten warnings. Anytime I write freaking Trump or Kamala in a comment, it gets taken down. Like the censorship on TikTok is ridiculous. So that's a lot of the reason why I needed to come over here and make a podcast. And side note too, I also have the Psychic Development Society. It's built, it's set up, it is growing. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is invited. It's a platform for all of us to connect, for all of us to basically connect with each other, grow our psychic abilities. It's just like a social platform. It's totally private, so we can post whatever we want. And there's a spot that I just built today that we can actually make our predictions on. So there's no censorship. Obviously, like if you're going to be mean or hurt anybody, I'm going to kick you off. But in the sense of like, it's a private platform. I kind of am moving everyone off of Facebook. And I'm going to have everybody like from my Udemy courses, everybody from Patreon, everybody's going to get all moved there. So I'm just kind of trying to remind everybody every now and then. But you can join over there now, start talking. We got a chat room. We have a couple places that you can start connecting, looking for volunteers for readings. Again, my courses will pop up there soon. You'll be able to see events there. There's going to be all sorts of cool stuff there. But I just wanted to mention it as like a side note because it might be a place that we can share predictions and things like this more privately and not get censored. Because again, I've tried to share so many things on TikTok. I told you guys that like I was going to share my, things in relation to this on TikTok, but every time I do, it gets taken down. Anytime I say Trump, I say even the orange man, I try to like censor myself, it gets taken down. Like I can't do anything right. and I mean, we know that, they've bought it and sold it to Oracle, and it's got a shelf life, and it's expiring soon anyway. So it's kind of like, what's the point? And if you're unaware of that, basically they sold it, and it's being turned into an app called M2, and essentially I think in September of this year we can download it and like move over to this new app called M2, but just heads up, the government's gonna be able to see everything inside of it, so do not download it on your phone. My husband's always like, this is BS anyways, because China is in the TikTok app anyways, and I don't even know why people are okay with TikTok. And I'm like, semantics. I know it's an oxymoron. But by March of next year, I think it's that our version of TikTok is basically going to stop getting updates. So anytime you try to update it or like download it, it's not going to work anymore. And so our version of it will go dark. Everyone else across the world will have their version of TikTok, but suddenly, all the American users will just kind of be gone. So if you're not aware of that, that's what's coming. So what was I saying off on a tangent? So yeah, basically I made that podcast, put it up, and then the next day, like all this news kind of hit. I don't want to say it was like huge news. It was just kind of news in the communities that know and are guessing that there's election interference. And so it was exciting because there's several nonprofit groups that have raised funds that are actually, they've raised grants to fund very professional, I can't remember what university he's from, but they've got one guy from a university who's literally like an election data analyst guy, and they were able to raise a grant in order to pay him to analyze the data of Pennsylvania counties. And I want to say one other one. Again, I'm going to have this all researched for the next episode so that I can speak to it better. I watched one of their more recent videos. If you want to like jump ahead and you're like, what is all of this? Go to Election Truth Alliance, their YouTube. They have got all their webinars up. But in Rockland County, New York, they've already got discovery done, and they already have a lawsuit going on, basically with sworn affidavits and people saying like, hey, I voted, I've got proof that I voted this way. Like they've either taken pictures of it or they've got some other proof, however way they do. And then they have other proof showing that their ballot disappeared, it got switched, it did this or that. And then of course, like this information about the election, like the data of the votes, that's public information. You can go onto the county's website and get it. And so all these data analysts are analyzing it. And so I'm getting off on a tangent here. I wanted to save it for the next one, but point being, that next day we found out that there's lawsuits happening. Like this shit is moving forward, and it's not just like ethereal, like, they took the election, blah, 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 like what the Republicans did in 2020. And they never found one proof of evidence. Like there's so much evidence and it's freaking ridiculous. Like, oh, I just want to get into it now, but I can't. Anyways, so that really like emboldened me, and that made me feel like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to like speak up and share this a little bit more. And so that's where I recorded my last video, and I literally released it like 2 days before Uranus moved into Gemini. And I didn't even realize that. And Uranus and Gemini for me is all about Uranus being unexpected, new, rebellious changes, doing things totally out of the box, saying like F you, screw you, rebellious, like that type of energy. In Gemini, Gemini is in my 10th house of career, being seen, how other people perceive me. And so like, I like did not plan that at all, but it just like happened to be that the day Uranus moved into Gemini, it was like me, I'm out here like, I'm going to start talking about political shit. But at the end of this Mars transit too, it perfectly aligned with that as well. Right? Yeah. It's hilarious because right at that same time, Mars moved into Virgo. It was finally done with this back and forth between, going back and forth between Leo, Cancer. And it finally got into a more productive place. And I think that it's funny too, and I mention this just for those of you who are interested in astrology, because you can see that like I was just going back and forth with this for so long of like, what do I want to do with this? And I was just like ruminating in my head. I was afraid of it and I didn't know what to do with the information, and I was just sitting on it. And then it wasn't until all the way in June that I finally took action on it, that Virgo. I put pen to paper and I finally put it out there, and I got detail oriented and I did it. And it's just funny because like I wasn't looking at these transits and being like, okay, I'm going to time it alongside these transits. No, it's just, it reflected where I was at mentally, and it just kind of like perfectly aligned. So like I partly mentioned this just for those of you paying attention to astrology. I think it's crazy. This is why I think you should be paying attention to your astrological transits. Also to kind of help illustrate and understand what they look like if you're going through similar stuff or are going to go through similar stuff, but also to help you just understand like where I was and the state of mind of where I was through all of that. It was just very like 12th house. Like I was in bad spirits and I did not know what to do with it. I was angry, I was depressed, and the result of this, it came out from me being like, I need to just put this on a platform. Like I need to share this. That was that Leo in the 12th house, and I need to follow that rebellious, like I just want to share it. Like I kept trying to share it like with my inner circle on Instagram, like my family and friends. And I kept sharing it on my Instagram posts and my Instagram stories. And I was just getting so mad that nobody was like responding or reacting. And I was just like, finally one day I was like, why am I doing this? Like no one's listening, no one's caring. These are not like my people anyway. And I was like, I want more people to see this. Like I want to help the people that would want it. And then I literally heard Hecate in my head. She's like, you got a platform. And I was like, I do. And then it started to switch into, well, shit, but what if they don't like that? And what if this? And what if that? But then it was just like this automatic knowing of like, well, I got to do it. And now it's just grappling with all these questions of, okay, how do I do it and not alienate everyone? How can I do it? And that's kind of how I came up with this kind of answer of like, well, I'll kind of dedicate a corner of it and I'll disclaimer the shit out of it and I will kind of put it over here and, you know, make sure to make it very clear what it is. And so that the people who want it will find it, and I will make an intro video, and then I will make a clear title series of what it is, and then everyone else can follow me from there. So that is how we got to where I am now. I am burning up. It is so hot in here. I'm recording this at late July, and I really want to turn on my AC unit, but it gets so loud. I think I'm going to anyways. I hope it's not too loud, because if I get hot and start melting, I'll rush and I'm gonna not speak as clearly. So I'm gonna get close to my mic, and I hope that hopefully you guys can't hear that too much. Apologies if you can. Anyways, where was I? Oh, I also forgot to say that during this time, I actually got a business coach, which is super exciting. And the reason why I mentioned that is towards the end of this whole transit, where I was kind of like getting the courage, and I was like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Because I was kind of grappling with the fact, I was like, well, you know, I'm gonna have to make predictions, and then I was like, I'm a fucking psychic, like that's what I do. Like, Jesus. And then I really like sat with it, and I was like, I make predictions anyway. Like I predict people one-on-one. The only difference between this and that is just that I'm like doing it in a more collective way. And so how can I kind of piece this apart in my mind and come to terms with that? And so a lot of that was just kind of getting very logical with it and being like, okay, this is the same as what I normally do. And I'm not going to worry about the content of it. I'm just going to approach it as like, okay, let's pretend I'm doing a group reading or a gallery reading. Like, how would I approach that? What are the ethics behind it? And apply that same thing here. I think I talked to Karen about it. I think I talked to my business coach about it. I also talked to a lot of my Patreon members about it. Everyone gave me such kind words of encouragement, and like I knew I was going to do it, but I needed to hear it from a lot of people, and I needed to have that encouragement. And I think like two things really happened that made me be like, all right, I'm gonna fucking do it. And that was like my business coach, who I like really look up to and trust. She's like a psychic who's been in the industry for, I want to say like 20 some years. Heads up, her name is Tana Newberry. And I'm currently like in a whole like mastermind group with her. And if you are a more like advanced psychic, I would highly recommend like checking out some of her stuff. If you're looking to like really take yourself to the next level. But point being, she like I threw out like we were having kind of like a monthly Q&A call with her. She's like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I know that I'm supposed to be over here working on all of this stuff that we said we were going to work on, but like my guides are over here pushing me to do this. And she was like, I think you should do it. Like, all of the best things that I have done have come from when I just went with what spirit like led me to do on these like, what did you call it, side quests. And I was like, okay, cool. And then what was the second thing that happened? The second thing that happened was that Tori Dunlap, I've always looked up to her. She wrote the book, The Financial Feminist. She also runs the podcast, The Financial Feminist. She's kind of like a business, or not business, like a financial money coach, money mindset, but she's also like very practical in her tips. And she kind of comes at it in a way of like, screw the patriarchy and she's very political, like in a way, and she's very opinionated. So she's not for everybody. But I've always admired that about her, is that she's taken a political opinion and is very much like, if you know her, that's kind of like her whole thing is like, there's systemic like oppression in, you know, the way things are set up, and she wants to help you, you know, acknowledge that, but also work against that. And she's like very anti Dave Ramsey, but like she like fiercely advocated for like Kamala, and she showed up to like the DNC, and she was like on the floor of the DNC with all of those other influencers there. And like I think it was when I signed up for my business like coach, her like yearly thing that I'm in the middle of, she had us do like an exercise like at the beginning of the year, which was like, who are your muses? Like, when you look up to like your muses, like they don't have to be like other psychics, they can just be like anybody that you look up to. And it was interesting, the people that I thought of, because I thought of Tori, and that was one because like she's so like financially like, yeah, and also politically that way. And you know, the other person that came to mind amongst lots of other people was like AOC. Like, I freaking love AOC. I love how AOC doesn't take shit from anybody. I love that she is just fiery, feisty, and just like politically like, ugh. And so anyways, obviously she's politically because she's in politics, but it was interesting because all of this just kind of culminated towards the end, like right before I was about to make that video. And I realized, I was like, I think I'm drawn to all of those people because like there's a desire in me to be that, to have that. And I think it was Chloe Taylor. I don't know if this is like her knowledge or somebody else, but she always talks about like desire, like having the desire to be something, to do something. It's not that it's innately not you, it's that it's part of you. It's something that's already destined for you. Desire is like showing you something that is already destined for you. It's already something that you are going to have. And so you should follow it because of that. Like, I'm not saying that very eloquently, but something along the lines of like, you know, desire shows you who you are meant to be. And it's not there to be like, oh, here's all the ways that you're shitty and you lack. It's actually, here's the things that like you want to be, and it's like a sign of who you can become, I think is like what I'm trying to get at. And so point with all of this is that I posted a little carousel on Instagram and Facebook right before I put up the video about like, you know, my predictions or whatever. And it was just about the big, beautiful bill. And it was very light. It was very factual. And it was like, we need to talk about this bill. And I tried to make it kind of relate to my psychic stuff. And I said, and it did, I said something to the effect of like, here's this bill. I'm sharing it because I'm worried a lot of people don't know about it. It's about to like pass. And here's some of the main points of it. And I see that it's affecting a lot of my clients, a lot of my family members. It's affecting me. Like, here's what you can do about it. Also, I think I said something like, I totally understand if this post is not for you. You can skip it, blah, blah, blah. And Tori Dunlap, she liked it. She liked my post on Facebook. And I'm just like fangirling. And she not only liked my post on Facebook, but she like liked another one of my like reels or something. I cannot remember what it was. I took a screenshot, but I was just like, I just took that as confirmation from the universe. It's like my freaking muse, even though she might not have realized it, she just kind of like energetically, subconsciously just like gave me permission in that moment. Yeah, there was a lot of signs around that time. And I was asking, like, show me signs that I'm supposed to be doing this. I feel like I would also, like, log in online and there would just be videos that would just seem like they were perfectly speaking to it. And it was just so well-timed and so perfect. And again, like I said, I put it up. It was so well-received. And again, it's not about me, but it's just a reflection that I'm in alignment with, you know, what needs to be said. And it's confirmation that that content needs to be created. It's not about me, it's about the content. And there were a lot of people that commented that they didn't know about certain things, or that, you know, they were excited that, you know, maybe somebody coming across my video who didn't know would watch and like find something out. And that was honestly my only goal, was that, you know, and is my only goal, is that if somebody is semi-open and unaware, maybe they can learn something and we can all help each other out. And there was a lot of other people as well who were saying like they had such awful anxiety about the state of what was going on, and that they really needed to hear, you know, that there was some hope. And I think that that was important for me to hear as well, because I was worried that that message was going to get lost as well. I also want to just mention that, like, I get my news from a lot of sources. I try to really diversify where I get my news from, so that I'm not only listening to one single news source. Like, I don't like that when people come and question me, like, and I'm more specifically mean family members, and they're like, oh, what news source do you listen to? And then I'll tell them this, that. And then I'm like, what about you? And they're like, oh, this one. And I'm like, that doesn't sound very diverse. So I listen to a lot of independent journalism folks, and I think that that's valid in a lot of senses because they are not paid, they are not funded by people, by corporations. They are independent, and therefore they're not, they're not influenced in some certain ways. So obviously we got like Aaron Parnas, like none of these people are perfect. Let's see, who else do I follow? I follow Midas Touch. I follow Courier Newsroom. I follow the Associated Press. I follow, I don't know if it's Reuters or Routers. I follow NPR. I follow PBS. Who else? For organized like movements, 5051 movement, Act Blue. I really like Jolly Good Ginger. Like, I know that some of these people are very like extreme, but I like hearing different people's perspectives of like Jolly Good Ginger, is a US veteran, and I like hearing, his perspectives on things. I follow all my local government organizations. I also follow Under the Desk News. Who else do I follow? All the indivisible branches. Like, I have mentioned this so that who is this? I really like Robert Reich and Inequality Media. I mentioned this if you're looking for places to follow, but also so that you get an understanding of like where I'm getting my news sources. Because I do think that's important. I think that when we are talking about, this is where I'm getting my information from, I think we do need to be transparent about where we're getting that from. I do not claim to be perfect, but I try my absolute very best to try to be as central and unbiased as possible. Like, I try absolutely to not watch like MSNBC because I know how far like left they are. I try not to watch, honestly, like any mainstream news media because they're just so biased both ways. But I do see clips of their stuff here and there. Is it like Darjeet or something? I can't remember what that channel is. I think I'm actually a lot more familiar with it than most people realize because I was a video producer before I was a psychic, and so newsflash if you don't know that about me, I was, and so I made a lot of video commercials for brands. So me and my husband would make the commercials that you see on TV. I made commercials for the Olympics, you guys. Like, I was a producer. What else have I made commercials for? Like, my husband worked on a documentary that won an Oscar. I've won 2 student Emmys. Like, we've got them in our house. Like, my house is filled with awards, and I don't mean that in like, again, like a look at me, but in the sense of like, I understand the media bias chart because I had to work with a lot of brands, and those brands had to understand, like, if I'm going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a commercial, like, I want to make sure that if that commercial goes up on TV, that it's going to go in front of an audience that is actually going to buy my product or buy my service or come into my store or come in to my wherever, and so you would use the media bias chart to do that. And that's not the only thing the media bias chart is for. The media bias chart is created just for media literacy, and essentially it just shows you, it's updated twice a year by this group. That is, it's a group of people. I try to be as like non-biased as possible. And there's the x-axis, I think, is like the horizontal axis. I'm just going off of memory here, but I'll put it in the video. It's like how far left-leaning or how far right-leaning that station is. And so what you want is in theory, a channel that's more central. So anything of the channel that falls more in the center of that graph is better. And then on the y-axis, the vertical part, that talks about like how credible is their reporting. So if you go lower on that vertical axis, it's basically saying if they report on something, is it actually true? Like if they said Obama's pants were blue on Tuesday and that was false, then it brings their score down. But if Obama's pants were blue on Tuesday, it brings their score up. And so ultimately, the best of the best is kind of going to be in the center and up high. And that's kind of how you get this like visual graph. And so you don't want anything too extreme on one side or the other and too far down. And so just know you can use that graph, and it gets updated twice a year. Again, this doesn't have every single station on it. It's not a one size fits all, but that's a little tangent that I got on. But how long is this podcast gonna be? Oh my God. Maybe I have to do a two-parter here. That's where I get my news. I do think that was important to say. So I just want to cut to the chase for my next big question. So I'm going to answer the question, like, do I think we're going to war? Which is kind of the big astrological question which is going on right now. And then I'm going to jump into the timeline, and then I think what's the messages that I'm getting of like what's required of us before I kind of wrap this up. So the reason why I'm asking, like, are we going into war? If that's like, you're like, what, where did that come from? The Uranus in Gemini transit, which I'll make sure to throw up a photo of that right here. We just entered that in July. Now it's only here for just a little sliver of time. We're getting like a little pilot episode before it kind of retrogrades back into the sign that it was in before. And then it fully comes back next February of 2026. And then it's going to be here for a full 7 years. And the reason why this one is so important is because the last 3 times this transit came around was first, the Revolutionary War, second, the Civil War, third, the World War II, specifically when the U.S. entered World War II. And so you see the patterns that I'm laying out for you here. It's not been a good time for the U.S. every time that Uranus has entered Gemini. And if you're like, oh, has there been any other time Uranus has entered Gemini where nothing has happened? No. And so, like, I feel like this is why I discovered astrology when I did. And I'm like, oh, shoot, this is why I was supposed to, like, not just like this only, but I feel like all of this is kind of coming together so that I can understand it better. So that's like the huge question. That is the huge question of like, are we having that? And so around July 7th, which is when Uranus ingressed into Gemini, which again, the date that a planet ingresses into a sign, it usually foreshadows a theme that is going to foreshadow the whole. On top of, like, again, this little pilot episode, because Uranus is in Gemini, I want to say it's there till November. So it's from July to November. So we're going to get a little taste of what that looks like. And then we're going to get a little bit of a break until it comes back in February. Or no, maybe it's May. Hang on. Apologies, it's May. I'm thinking of Saturn and Neptune. So again, we're getting a little preview here. And so there's a lot of astrologers out there who are like fear-mongering, like, it's going to be a war, it's going to be a civil war, is it going to be World War III? And then there's other astrologers who are like, no, everything's going to be fine. And I'm going to tell you astrologically what I think, and I'm going to tell you intuitively what I think. Let's start with astrologically. What do I want to do? No, I'm going to start with intuitively. Intuitively, so one of the secret podcasts that I recorded, it's labeled as the No Kings podcast. And I thought that there was going to be an event on the day of the No Kings protest, and it felt bad to me. It felt again, disclaimer here, exit if you're not feeling good to receive this, but it felt the equivalent to like a terrorist attack. Again, I can be wrong. And again, obviously this date has passed and nothing happened. But I kind of described it, and you're welcome to go back and listen to it. I was literally like channeling it real time in that episode. And I felt like it was like a foreign attack. And it felt like foreign people attacking some of our cities, like multiples of our cities. And I was overwhelmed with this information. And I kind of explained in that podcast that like I had not felt that way about a message coming through since literally the time that I did the gallery reading, where when I was back in the Aspen program, and there was somebody who I was picking up on that was about to commit suicide, and it just felt different. It felt like I don't know how to explain it other than like the energy when I receive good messages, it's like flowing and it's like it just comes in and it comes out. But the energy when I receive more of these negative messages, well, it's not hard and fast. I'm still struggling with how to like teach it and explain it, so maybe I shouldn't try to teach it and explain it yet. But specifically with this time, it was like I was feeling pushed and called, and I was like worried about like, am I channeling from too anxious of the wind just picked up and knocked over my pool outside, my like kids pool. That's not a coincidence right there. But I was worried I was like in too anxious of a state, and that I wasn't channeling correctly. And I kept doing all the checks, and I was like, no, I think this is the message. And again, I kept comparing it to like, I feel like it was like that one time with the girl in that gallery reading, and it was like verified. It was like that girl, they were able to check on that girl. She was about to commit suicide. And like it all, I don't want to say it worked out. I don't know if it worked out, but it was like verified. Like the person in the audience knew exactly who I was talking about. Like I had a dream about this girl the night before. I went in early. I told Karen about it, and I was like, Karen, I don't know what to do with this information. I was overwhelmed by it, and I was so like, and it was like it didn't feel good. And she said, just let it go. If it comes back up, identify who it's for, ask and make sure it's for that person. And she taught me all the things, reminded me of all the things that, we learned in the class, and it did come up again. And I figured out who it was for. And the girl, had a friend who had previously done this. And she instantly knew and felt like she knew who this was. And they were able to go home, verify this, and I think they followed up with Karen. Karen got in touch with me just to let me know what had happened. Anyways, so point being, with this No Kings protest prediction that I picked up on, it felt very similar in the sense of I feel so strongly that it was accurate, but it came through in such a weird, different, icky way. But I don't think that doesn't mean it's not right. Obviously, I got the timing wrong. The timing is off. I'm still I still feel like it's going to happen. I just don't know when. That's something I'm going to come back to sit with. I don't know when. But you're welcome to go listen back to that episode if you're really curious. I go into a little bit more detail there. So implication there being, if something like that were to happen with a foreign group, yeah, obviously we were probably going to have some sort of conflict. I've also had a dream with a building collapsing in Seattle. And I know it was Seattle because in the dream I was filming the building through my cell phone, and I was like, oh, this is Seattle or something. I wrote it up on the blog. It's in the blog post. It's all there. Now, intuitively, it's without a doubt, we already have civil unrest. Would I call it a civil war? Like, maybe. I don't know technically what defines a civil war. Like, I don't know the official, like, what is the official definition of a civil war? Let's figure that out together right now. What is the official definition of a civil war? A civil war is a war between organized groups within the same state or country. The aim of one side may be to take control of the country or a region, to achieve independence for a region, or to change government policies. Yeah, I don't see it like that. I could be wrong. I see it more as civil unrest on top of potential foreign stuff. Again, I'm going to keep you updated as I feel into it. Civil unrest being like fighting within ourselves, within cities, within the states. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think there is going to be a lot of loss. I think it's not going to come without cost. If anything, I think I'm underestimating it. I think what it is, because Hecate is showing me, the U.S. is so big, and I think when I'm tuning into the U.S. as a whole, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, the whole U.S. is going to go through this, because the U.S. is so big. Really, I see it on the East Coast and the West Coast intensely, but then in like the rural areas and in like the middle, like it's just kind of like, you know. And so I think that's where I'm getting that, like, it's going to be up and down depending on where you're at. As far as like, are we going to get into something foreign? I do think so. I don't know how yet. I do think that we have Russian people within our government. Like, we kind of know that. I think when Trump dies / gets removed, taken over, I think there's going to be power grabs. I don't think Russia is going to like try to like come in and be like, I'm going to put myself right here. I just think there's going to be like, I don't know. This might not logically make any sense, but it's almost like proxies, or like people in alliance, people helping foreign people. Again, I've always seen this as never like war, like pew, pew, pew. Like, don't get me wrong, there's probably going to be a lot of that, but like, it's like trade war, it's information war, it's war of goods, it's war of like withholding services. It's like a lot more tactical than that. And I am by no means like a war expert at all. Jumping into the astrological stuff of what other people have gotten. Now, I will say Chris Brennan of the Astrology podcast, I think he's one of the best ones out there, because he called the Iran stuff months before it happened. He and Austin Coppock, they and I've been watching them for probably a solid like year or two with their monthly forecasts. It helps me to learn. They were guessing about the Iran conflict, Israel conflict, and us getting involved with Iran, even to the point of like guessing that we were gonna like, I don't think they guessed that we were gonna like bomb them by any means, but they alluded to it in a lot of ways, down to the month. And so like them, I trust wholeheartedly. They're so good at what they do, and they've been studying this for so long. Chris Brennan, the Astrology podcast. So he even did an astrological breakdown of all the times of him leading up to and predicting Iran, if like you're astrologically curious about all of it. Now, what he has said, from my understanding, I'm pretty sure I understand this correctly, is that he is alluding to, because they are very careful with their words. They're never like, oh, this is for sure going to happen. And I'm sure that comes from having such a big platform and making sure that they're being very ethically careful. They have kind of alluded to the U.S. being both in a civil unrest situation and a foreign situation. So that kind of is aligning with what I'm picking up intuitively. Now, another astrologer that I watch is Dan from the World Astrology Report. He kind of gets things off here and there. He's a little bit more sensationalist than I would like, but he still gets things right a lot here and there. And one of the things that I liked about him, and one of the things he has said, is that he has talked about the waves of war. And he has also talked about the Barbeau graph, which I've mentioned a couple times, which has said that, like, and you know, maybe this is coming from a place of hope, that 2025 is like on an upward swing and that things are getting better. The Barbeau graph astrologically is like, it tracks the world events, and like it mathematically, you know, using astrology says that like the higher the graph goes, the less astrologically like intense the year, or the less like world events that are catastrophic there's going to be. And you can see like a huge dip in 2020 with the pandemic and stuff. So you see in 2025 it's going up, and it keeps going up for a couple years. So my hope is that that graph is right. I don't know. But he also talked about in one of his podcasts, and again, I'm just sharing this as a hopeful thing because that's one of the things I aim to do with this podcast, is he talks about another astrologer. Oh, did I not write down his name? Oh no, Rob Doulard, who talked about the waves of wars, and he kind of graphed out wars and the relation to essentially like whether the outer planets, I don't know, I think it was the outer planets, I could be wrong on that one, but essentially if they were like waxing or in their waning cycles. And I believe that my notes are so small I can't read it. Hang on. I'm do not quote me on this. I don't know which one it is. I don't know if it's that the waxing cycles are associated with war and that we are in actually a waning cycle, or if it's the opposite, that we're in a waxing cycle and that the wars are more often associated with the waning. Just essentially know that whatever is the traditional thing with those wars, we are in the opposite of it. So again, that's why he has been guessing that it's not going to be the case, because we are in that opposite cycle of that. Something I want to do more of is I want to dive into blanking on his name right now. There's another astrologer who has apparently been really studying this Uranus and Gemini transit and every transit before it, Nick Dagenbest, and I really want to go and dig into his stuff, and that's not something I got to do before before this podcast, but it's something I'm going to do and hopefully share. Not going to like claim all of his stuff by any means, but just kind of be like, this is what he says, just so you know, so you don't have to go watch it all, because again, it's very high level stuff, because they are very high level like astrologers, and so it's taken me a long time to understand it so I can follow along. So trying to like pass you off to them if you don't know anything about astrology, it's probably like listening to like, it's so hard to understand. Another reason why I just logically don't think it's going to be like a civil war, like if anybody out there is worried about like it being like ice versus the rest of the US, is because there's just no way you can make a military big enough, strong enough to take out all of the US. It's just, it doesn't work that way. It's the US is too spread out, and you would have to have a lot of money to fund a lot of people to fight a lot of people that live in the US. And you have to remember too that in the US, a lot of those people have their own firearms. And so it's just, from what I understand, again, from listening, feel free to correct me if I am by any means misinformed, but from what I understand of watching a lot of the veterans out there, is that it's very, very hard to achieve something like that. So I just want you to know, if that's a concern of yours, that might not be a very realistic possibility. And again, I do not think there will be any sort of like nuclear war by any means, or World War III, because World War III implies that like we are getting involved with like multiple people, and that there's several alliances happening. It's like several alliances, and they're all attacking each other. And just like knowing the geopolitical landscape and talking to my husband, because he's very much into geopolitics, from what I understand, I don't think that's possible, and that's not just going to happen. It just doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. Again, things could change. I could absolutely be wrong. I wish I would have brought more notes on that to provide evidence for that. But yeah, no nuclear annihilation. However, I do think there might be some sort of nuclear issue here soon. But I'll talk about that in a second. I do think that looking at a lot of the astrocartography of this, which is something else that I just kind of naturally was drawn into and fell into, and again, all of these pieces are coming together, I think, for a reason. I started studying astrocartography about like a year ago, and you can look at the geodetic lines of some of the stuff that's going to happen. You can look at where the Uranus in Gemini hotspots are going to happen in the US. And you can see, for example, like right now with all this stuff in LA, all the stuff that you guys are experiencing on the West Coast with the ice, and even up in Seattle, some of you guys are like fighting a lot of the ice up there. In San Francisco, like you hear a lot of that stuff going on over there. Like a lot of the news is over there. You're not hearing about things in Colorado. You're not hearing about things in Kansas. You're not hearing about things, well, you're probably not going to hear about things in Kansas anyways, but you know what I mean? Like there's a reason why those things are happening there, and it's because, in my opinion, I think it's because of the influences of those planetary lines and of those transits. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, and how I think we can predict where things are going to happen based on the astrocartography and the mundane astrology. But I think that's why LA and the whole West Coast is getting affected right now. I was checking my notes and trying to figure out what exact line it was, and I don't think I wrote it down, but essentially I'll figure it out, because I didn't mean to go into this in this one, but I'll go into it next podcast. But you guys have a planetary line going right over you. I want to say it's Mars Uranus right now, or Mars something, but essentially I think where I'm trying to like wrap this all up here, because I know I said I was going to go into this further, but I am almost at 2 hours recording, and I actually have to go swap with my husband and watch my kiddos here. And so I think my point was just kind of that, like, some of this, it might be more concentrated in some areas, other places it might not be. And hopefully we'll be able to kind of like figure that out a little bit ahead of time. I'm hoping to learn that, combine my knowledge, and maybe like share that with you guys. Cause again, I feel like it's a little bit of like my responsibility to do so, like piecing all of these together maybe. But again, I do feel like there is this element of both at play here. Definitely at the very least civil unrest. I mean, we already know that it's ice. We already know that it's this administration. It's just now a question of like, how much further will that escalate, and what does that look like? And then on top of that, are we going to have like foreign players come in and try to take advantage of us while we're weak? And I think that answer might be yes. Just knowing some of the transits that are coming up and some of the intuitive hits that I've been getting. And again, I don't mean to scare anybody here, but it's more just like, being forewarned is being prepared. I don't know. Whatever I always try to say that I always fuck up. And so like the thing that I feel like everyone keeps trying to remind people with the Uranus and Gemini transit is that and this transit is from 2025 to 2033 essentially. It doesn't mean, we're going to be in war that whole entire time. Intuitively, before I even really knew about this transit, I asked how long this whole shenanigans were going to take to wrap up. I originally heard 5 years. So I actually felt like this was going to be more cleaned up by 2030. But maybe it takes a little bit longer than that. Who knows? But that's intuitively what I heard from my guides. Maybe it takes until 2033 to maybe clean up things on paper or something. Who knows? But think of, the US before the Civil War and then after the Civil War. It's like there was a lot of sacrifice. There were a lot of lives lost. There was a lot of horrible things that happened. But on the other side of that, the US was built back better. There were a lot of positive things that came from that, and a lot of course corrections were made. And so my hope is that that is what's coming out of this. My hope is that maybe this is small, hopefully. Maybe the civil unrest is small. All of the events that happen are small, and we course correct, and maybe this is just tiny. Maybe. But hopefully it's nothing bigger than that. Again, I wanted to cover the timeline and all of the stuff that I'm seeing over the next couple years within that 2033. I ran out of time today, but I will just essentially make a part 2 of this, and we'll cover that next, as well as what I feel like the messages that we need to be doing. So look out for that. Maybe that ends up working perfect because I'll have a little bit more time to spend on some of this timeline, because most of this timeline that I have is astrological. So maybe I can actually sit with it intuitively. And I did actually pull an intuitive spread that I thought was extremely interesting. I used some Lenormand cards, and I shared it on my threads if you want to sneak peek at it and you don't want to wait till the next podcast. Very interesting. Essentially, there was a lot of obvious stuff, okay, Trump's involved. Yeah, there's passion, there's energy, there's anger. The community is at odds. There's a crossroads here. But there's a second man involved. And I have some theories about what that is. And I think that one might even be even harder for some of you to wrap your head around. But I got some theories. I got some theories about a certain man. I don't know. That one I have even less logical evidence for. It's purely intuitive. But I'm curious if anyone has ever felt the same. I found one other psychic who's felt the same, which makes me wonder if there's anything to it. But I just want to end this by validating that this has only been 6 months of this BS, this office, this administration. And I want to just remind you all that this has been slow psychological warfare. And I want you to understand that that's what this is. And I was talking to a therapist about this, and he validated this for me, that this is still trauma for some of us in a way. It might not be big trauma with a big T is what he said, but it might be trauma with a little t. Political stuff like this can absolutely be trauma. And it might be something that is slow, but it's something that puts you in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. And so I just want to remind everybody that it's so, so important to take care of yourself right now in these times. It's so important to know when to unplug. That is something that I did not do in those first couple of months. Again, I felt like I'm kind of ahead of everybody else. Again, not in a sense of better than, but in the sense of I feel like I am experiencing things ahead of everybody because I'm supposed to come back and bring the messages, if that makes sense. And it's you got to unplug. You got to remember your self-care routine. It's okay to not pay attention. It's okay to just look at the news at the end of the day. And again, saying that from a place of somebody who did not do that, I was I'm chronically online sometimes myself. Take care of yourself. Focus on regulating your nervous system. Focus on getting back into your body, on figuring out how to get out of that fight, flight, or freeze. And if you don't know how to do that, search exercises, search things that you can do. And when you do find something that works, write it down, put it on a list, put it next to your bed, put it next to your bathroom mirror. And when you notice that you're in that state, go to that list so that you don't even have to worry about remembering what to do. You can go to that list and be like, oh yeah, I can take a bath. Oh yeah, I can read a book. Oh yeah, I can go to my favorite TV show. I have had to watch a lot of comfort shows that have brought me joy. Like, I cannot watch anything anxious. I cannot watch anything new right now. I've just had to go back to Parks and Rec. Like, I've had to go back to The Office, like Friends. Like, that has brought me a lot of stability, predictability, comfort. And so, like, think about things like that you can do. Being with family, being with friends, community. And I just want to leave you all with this quote, because I feel like this is where we're at, and this is something that we don't want to hear, but I feel like it's something that we need to hear. So this is from Lord of the Rings, but I felt like it was properly timed, and I saved it because I felt like it was supposed to be part of this podcast. I wish it need not have happened in my lifetime, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf, and so do all who live. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to start over. Okay. I wish it need not have happened in my lifetime. So do I, said Gandalf, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. And again, I feel like that mirrors a lot of the message that I've been getting of like, why do you think you came here at this time? And again, I feel like that's different for everybody. It might not be that you're protesting. It might be that like your challenge literally is to learn how to regulate, self-regulate. It's literally to heal and hunker down and to learn how to protect. It might be to learn how to get out. You know, it might be to learn how to escape and protect yourself. You know, it might be that. I don't think it is the journey of everyone to stick around. So yeah, just want to leave you with that to think about. But I do think if you are here listening to this podcast and you've made it this long, you're feeling called to this for a reason. You have a role to play in this. And especially as you go into my future podcast, something I want you to like journal on. And hey, use it as like a good shamanic journeying exercise or like a meditation exercise. If you're like, I have no idea, go and use it as a prompt, you know, and say, what am I supposed to be doing in this 2025 or Uranus and Gemini or whatever is supposed to be coming to the US? Like, what is my role to play in this? And see what your guides have to say about it. Pull some cards. If you're like, I don't even know how to do shamanic journeying. See what they have to say. I'd be very curious. Feel free to jump into the society and share with us as well. Again, that's what the society is for. It's for a place to connect. It's for you to strengthen your abilities, share your readings, get feedback, ask questions. Join us over there. And just know too, if you're like, I don't even know where to jump in. I don't even know where to start. I do have courses for psychic development. And I have some basic courses, some advanced courses. You can reach out to me anytime for readings, for sessions. I also have coaching sessions as well. And as always, feel free to follow me on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Threads, TikTok. We also have Patreon as of right now. Again, that's eventually going to get moved over to the society. I also read people every month. We also have like a community hangout night. We do all sorts of added perks over there that you can kind of subscribe and join us. And it's kind of like a community that you can pay for more access to me and pay to kind of just help be a part of a community that grows your abilities. Lots more perks over there that my brain is a little fried right now, but you can see it all on my website. Just go to the mentorship tab and you can see all of the options that are available. Alrighty, everyone. So feel free to, I want to say like this episode, but you can't do that here. Follow the podcast, rate it, and leave me a comment. I would love to hear what you think. You can do that on Spotify now. I think you can even leave voice notes, maybe not. I would love to hear from you guys what you think, what you're feeling like you're called to do during this time. So thanks so much for listening. Sorry I didn't get to it all. My husband's probably like, where the hell is she? I'm dying. Take these kids from me. So next time I will get into my timeline. I will get into that'll give me some time. That'll give me a breather to like jump into everything that I think is going to happen. Hopefully I can expand on it some more. And then we'll do another podcast really diving into Trump, the election, all of that good stuff, and my theory on some of the other things that I think are happening behind the scenes. All right, friends, thanks for listening. I will see you next time. Bye.